All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to York County Democratic Party's virtual training for petitioning 2021. My name is Chad Baker. I'm the chair of the Democratic Party of York County. And also on the presentation tonight is our director of campaigns and elections. And that is Sam Schlunt. She is going to be jumping in with any feedback and hopefully helping to answer some questions as well. Sam, if you want to say hi, go ahead.
Hi, everybody.
So sorry, I started to get some feedback in my headset, so that's why I was like stumbling around there for a minute. But so we're good now. So all right. Okay, so I'm just going to jump right in. A couple housekeeping things that we want to mention for this evening. Obviously, this is live streaming on YouTube tonight, so you should be able to follow along there. If you have any questions whatsoever during the presentation, you can feel free to put those into the chat function. We're monitoring that, so I can keep an eye on that as the evening goes on. We will either try to answer the questions as they come up, or at the same time, we'll have a couple different breaks throughout the presentation where we'll stop and ask for questions so we can maybe answer them at that point in time as well. If after this evening you want to reference back to this presentation, it will be available online at the YouTube page that you're on now. It will be saved as a public presentation, so you'll be able to rewatch the video after the fact this evening as well. Or obviously, you can always reach out to us at the party with any questions that you have, and I'll provide that contact information at the end of the presentation. So let's get started here. So our objectives for tonight, actually 4 different objectives. The first is to identify the different types of petitions that we're going to be looking at this year, and talk a little bit about the differences between those. The second objective is to explain the content of the petitions so that you know whether you're a candidate or you're someone who is circulating a petition, you will have an idea of exactly what needs to be filled out on those petitions in order to get on the ballot for the May primary. The third thing is to review just some of the do's and don'ts. Again, kind of what you need to do to ensure that your signatures and your petitions count. But at the same time, some of the things that you can look out for, some of the kind of common issues that pop up from time to time. And then the last thing is, let's get every Democrat that wants to run on the ballot. Obviously, we know we've got a lot of different positions on the ballot this year, from school board to township, to city council, to borough mayors and borough council. There's a lot of different seats that are on the ballot this year. So we want to make sure that we can get every candidate that wants to run on the ballot for the May primary. So this year's a little bit different because there are 2 different types of petitions that are available. There is a state petition, and we'll take a look at that here in just a second, as well as a York County petition. The state petition, the Pennsylvania state petition, will only be used by the statewide judicial candidates who are running. So no one that is running in York County should need to file a statewide petition. That is a good thing because that means you don't have to go to Harrisburg to file your petitions. It means that you can do them right here in York County at the Board of Elections. And you will be using the York County petitions that are available. And again, we'll take a look at those in just a second as well, so you can get an idea of what they look like and where you can get those. So this is what the Pennsylvania state petition looks like. I always tell folks, especially now that the county petition looks a little bit similar to this, the best way to determine that this is the state, obviously, it says at the top that it's a state petition, but it's got all these barcodes and QR codes and scannable things on it, so that when it goes to the Department of State, it's a lot easier for them to process. So that is a good indicator that you're looking at a state petition when it has those scannable pieces on it. So this is the York County petition, and I do want to just preface this by saying I do believe that York County is using two different petitions for the same thing this year. We have seen today a number of the petitions that were made available at the County Board of Elections, and they are some of the older petitions that are out there. And the petition that is available on the Board of Elections website is the one that you see here in the presentation. I would advise, obviously either one can be used because the Board of Elections is handing out either one. But if you have not yet received your petition, if you've not gone and picked one up at the Board of Elections, you can go onto the York County Board of Elections website and they will have that available to you that you can download, and it'll be the version that you see on your screen right now. So when you look at the petition, if you've never done petitioning before, maybe it's been a while since you've done a petition, or potentially you've never run as a candidate before, and you're doing the petitioning for the first time, there's a couple different sections that are important on the petition. And the first is the what they call the preamble section. And this is really where, as a candidate, you will fill in all of this information so that it is the most accurate information available. So you can see, where it says that, we the undersigned, all of whom are qualified electors of, and it's whatever district you are running in. So if it's suburban York School District, if it's West York Borough Council, if it's East Manchester Township, you can put that in that particular area there. And are registered and enrolled members of, and you would include the Democratic Party there. Hereby petition the County Board of Electors of York County to have the name of, and this is where you will put your name as you want it to appear on the ballot. Most people prefer to have the name as it appears on their voter registration card, but however you want it to appear on the ballot, that is where you will put that. You will put your name. So if you go by a nickname, you probably, that's your call whether or not you want to include that. We typically say try to go by your official name, or like I said, specifically what is officially on your voter registration card is preferred. Whose profession and business or occupation is, and you can fill that in with whatever your current job is. If you are self-employed, unemployed, a director, a whatever, it goes in that particular position. And then the next line is, and whose place of residence is, and you will include your full address, your street number, if you have a street number, your street name, and the zip code there. And then the last part of it is, the last line is that you're a candidate for the office of. Again, if you're running for township supervisor, you would put township supervisor. If you're running for school director, school director. If you're running for city council would go there. And then the term of office. And if you're not sure of the term of office, you can either check with the Board of Elections or you can check with us. Most of these seats are 4-year seats. Some of the township offices are 6 years. So we just suggest, if you're not 100% sure on that, you can always check with the Board of Elections, and they should be able to provide that to you. So I do see a question that says about with the place of residence, and it says, do you add the city? No, you will not add the city there. Actually, the city is more or less at the top, that very first line, who are qualified electors of, and you would write your district there. So again, if it's for York City, you would write York City. If it's for West York School District, you'd put West York School District there. And yeah, under the place of residence, the city, the town, the borough, it doesn't specifically ask for that. So I don't think you need to be worried with that there. The next part of the petition is the vital part. This is where you're going to get your signatures of the folks the electors that are going to be signing to get you on the ballot. We're going to talk in more detail about what needs to be included there in just a minute. So I'm going to move over that to the next section, which is the statement of the circulator. This is a very important part of your petition. It will appear on the back of the petition at the very bottom. And this is to be filled out by the person who is circulating the petition. So as a candidate, if you're going around and you're getting signatures by individuals to sign your petition, you are the circulator of that petition, and you would fill in that information as it instructs you there on the back. If you have someone who is helping you out, that's volunteering, helping you to get your petition signed, they are the circulator. Whoever is basically holding on to that petition and getting it signed is the circulator of that petition. One thing I will point out here is at line number 5, where it does say city, borough, or township, there you have to be a little bit careful with who when the circulator fills that out. And I always use the example of myself. I live in Manchester Township. My mailing address is York, Pennsylvania. On line 5, if I was circulating a petition, I would sign it as Manchester Township and then my zip code, not the city or the borough or whatever that's attached to my regular mailing address, but the actual borough, township, or obviously if you do live in York City, you can put York there and then the zip code. So you just want to be careful with that. Something that if you've done petitioning in the past, last year, one of the rules that changed was it used to be anyone that circulated a petition had to get the petition notarized. That is no longer the case. Whoever is circulating the petition just needs to fill out this information to verify that, yes, indeed, they were the individual who circulated the petition. So I'm just going to take a real quick break. I know we didn't get real far into this so far yet, but are there any questions at this point? You can, like I said, you can add those in the chat function on YouTube. Sam, did you have anything you wanted to add yet?
No, I think I'm good for now, Chad. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Thank you. So, yes, so we do have a question that says, so on that last page where it talks about city, borough, or township, you know, it says, so the smallest municipality that defines where you live. And that's actually a really good way of saying that. That's absolutely the case. So yeah, so it would be, again, you know, like the township or the borough or what have you. So yeah, excellent. I might steal that verbiage actually for the next time we do this. So, and then another question that came up that says, does the circulator write only York County on line 1? And yes, that is yes, they can do that. They can write York County in there. There are some rules changes about who can carry ballots. I'm sorry, who can carry petitions, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. It may be you, as long as it's a Pennsylvania resident who lives in York County, who is a registered Democrat, they should be able to circulate that. So even if you're running for, say, again, let's say Manchester Township, as a Manchester Township supervisor, somebody who lives in Dillsburg could circulate your petition for you. So, you know, they would just put York County in that line. So there's another question here that says, instructions say that the affidavit of circulator is to be notarized. That is, if it says it there, it should not say it there. That was a rule that changed last year, that the circulators they no longer have to get these notarized. So if it does say that, I'm not sure if it says it on here, but if it says it in any of the verbiage that the county has given you, it may be just that's outdated information. It should be, and it's been verified with the state party as well, that you do not need to have the actual petition notarized. There is something as a candidate that you need to get notarized, and I'll address that in a couple minutes here. But for the actual petition itself, the circulators do not need to get them notarized. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, and as I said, if you have questions as we go through, please feel free again to continue to post them in the chat, and either we will jump back to them or we will answer them at the time that we see them pop up. So that's a good question. Someone asked, will the circulator be penalized if they have the petitions notarized? No, not at all. They can, I mean, obviously, if they want to get them notarized, they can, but they won't be penalized if they do. So moving ahead, just looking at that section that we talked about where the signatures go, there are, as you can see, 6 columns here that need to be filled out. Column 1 is the signature of the elector. So, however they would sign their name on an official document, that's where they should sign it, is in that column. In column 2, I should say, they should print their name, and they should print it as clearly and as legibly as they possibly can. If they print their name as their signature, they can do that in the signature column as well. But the printed name should not be a signature at all. The printed number 2 column there should just be them printing out their name. If for some reason someone gets those backwards, we have seen it already where someone will print their name in column 1 and they will sign their name in column 2. They will have to cross that out and start over again in another line. That is one of those things that is questionable whether or not it would count moving this petition forward. So whenever in doubt, we always say, whenever in doubt, strike it out. If for any reason you think that line won't be counted, cross it out. And that's one of the things that you can do. In line 3, you would include the house number, not the street name, just the house number. So if you live on 123 Main Street, you would just put 123 in that column. And then in number 4, that's where you'll put your street address or your road address, not the number. So again, if you live at 123 Main Street, you will just put Main Street in column number 4. Number 5, this goes back to what we just talked about a second ago. In number 5, you will want the signer to put, as was said here, the smallest municipality that defines where they live. So in other words, the borough, the township, or the city would be listed there. So again, they do not include their mailing address. They include whatever the area is that they live in. So again, for myself, I would put Manchester Township there, not York. That is an area, I will say, column number 5 is one that causes a lot of people trouble, because obviously we're so used to writing our address and just writing our street name, street number, street name, comma, city, and state and zip code. No, you need to make sure that you're keeping an eye when someone's on the page when they're signing it, and making sure you're including that as well, the township, borough, or city. And then in column number 6, that is the date that they are signing that petition. Please keep in mind, no petitions can be signed before the start of petitioning on February 16th. If there is a date that is earlier than February 16th, it not only jeopardizes that one line, it could potentially jeopardize the entire petition. So you want to make sure that that date is accurate. You also want to make sure that in column number 6, those dates are in order. So for example, if you get a signature on February 16th, and then you get another, on February 17th, you might have somebody that, they're all the way down at, say, like line 14, and they're filling it out, and they just happen to look back at the top and see the date that's there, and that's the one that they write in, which would be out of line chronologically. So you want to make sure that they are absolutely putting the correct date in there. That is, again, just make sure they're in order as they go. If there's any question about it, just draw a line through that particular signature and start over on the next line below it. So we often say there are kind of 7 rules for circulators for people that are thinking that. I'm sorry, I just saw somebody commented that says it says the 28th. That is the 28th. You're right. That is a mistake. That is, I did not catch that. That should be February 16th. It cannot be circulated before February 16th. So thank you, Wendy, for calling that out. That is an error on the presentation here. So there are 7 rules for circulating. Number 1 is that each signer may only sign petitions for as many candidates as there are spots on the ballot. So the best example of this is in most of our school board races, there are either 4 or 5 positions that will be on the ballot in 2021. That means that if there are 6 or 7 people who are circulating petitions, one voter, one Democrat can only sign 4 of those petitions. If they sign any more than those, actually all of those petitions can be, or that signature on all of those petitions can be thrown out. So you can only sign for as many open seats as there are on the ballot. For most races, it's only going to be 1 seat. It's when you get into the school board races, it's when you get into the township races that there are multiple spots open. So you want to be aware of that. Each signer must personally insert their information. You cannot write that in there for them. You cannot have, if you are talking to a husband and he says, oh, my wife is a registered Democrat and I want to fill her information out, he cannot do that. It has to be that individual who is putting their own information down there. And as it says here, you can put the date with numbers. You don't have to write out in that small little square. The example that it shows here is February 28th, 2021. You can write 2/28, and actually you can do even shorter than 2021. You can just put 21 there. And do not use ditto marks. This is another culprit for getting things thrown out. We will have folks who, there might be 4 Democrats in a single household, and the first person signs and the next person thinks, oh, it'd be so easy if I could just put ditto marks under the house number, the street name, the municipality, all of that. No, they have to write all of that information out. It might seem like a nuisance to them, but the fact of the matter is it's important to have that information spelled out on the petition. And the next, number 3, where it talks about each signer must incorporate their information as it shows up on their registration record. And the signature should be as close of a match as possible to the signature that they use when they registered to vote. Nicknames aren't permitted. You want to try to avoid, if it's Robert Smith, you want to make sure that they're putting Robert Smith and not Bob Smith. They should use the name as it appears on their voter registration card. Make certain that each signer of the petition is registered and an enrolled member of the party that they're signing for. So again, if you are running as a Democrat, you are getting Democrats to sign your petition. Independents, others, Republicans, they cannot sign this petition. If they are not registered to vote, they cannot sign your petition. They have to be a registered Democrat in that district to sign. There's a minor exception to that, and we'll address that a little bit later here as well. The individual who executes the statement of the circulator must be the one who is there when people are signing it. So for example, if I have a petition that I'm circulating and I hand it to someone and then they take it and they get signatures on it, and then another person takes it and gets more signatures on it, and then it comes back to me, technically that's not valid. Technically that's not legal, because I should be the one that is, as the circulator, I should be watching and viewing and witnessing every signature that is put onto to that particular ballot. Number 6, do not attempt to execute the statement of the circulator until the petition is fully signed and completed. basically what that's saying is once you've collected all the signatures that you know you're going to collect on that particular petition, then as the circulator, you can fill that information out on the back. You're not supposed to do that in advance of circulating the petition. And then the last point, candidates are reminded that their petitions may only be circulated, and we've talked about this already, by registered voters in the state of Pennsylvania and an enrolled member of the political party referred to on their petitions. So signers must live in that district. So again, if you are circulating for West York Borough Council, the person that signs that petition must be a registered Democrat in West York. However, somebody from Hanover could come to West York and circulate that petition. So the circulator doesn't have to live in the district, but the signer does. So I see a question popped up here, and it says if the signer doesn't know their municipality, you can look it up by checking voter registration status online. And actually, one of the things that we'll talk about here in a couple of minutes is if you are working from a list that we provide from the party, we will include that information on that sheet when you're filling out that information, or when the signer is filling out that information. You should actually have a sheet that includes that information on there. Another question about do you fill it out with black or blue ink? Actually, either black or blue ink is fine. Anything other than black or blue ink, they are not real happy about. So you want to stick to the basics on this particular one. There's a question about cross-filing, and I will actually address that here in just a minute. We'll talk about cross-filing in a second. Are signers required to live in the specific ward or just the municipality? And that's a great question, because there are races that are in wards. So again, for example, West Shore School District has a number of different areas that are designated. You know, if a candidate is running for West Shore School District Region 3, there's only a specific region that person is covering. In that case, you can only get signatures from people within that specific district. So it's whatever district you're running for, or whatever district the candidate is running for, that is, residents of that particular district have to sign the petitions. So I'll give you a really good example. Say somebody is running for in like I said, in West Shore School District, Region 3. Again, anybody from the county can circulate the petition, but only somebody that lives in that region can sign that particular petition. So just some general tips, and here I got it right, that signatures can only begin, you can only begin gathering signatures on Tuesday, February 16th, and you can only collect signatures through March 9th. All petitions have to be to the County Board of Elections office by 5 p.m., the close of business, on Tuesday, March 9th. So, you want to make sure that you have them in there and ready to go with all the materials that you need to have with them. A petition may not contain signatures from more than one county. This happens in those statewide races that we talked about. The statewide races for like Superior Court, Supreme Court, the Commonwealth Court, there will be petitions that are available to be signed to get candidates on the ballot for those statewide courts, but they will only be specific to the county. So here's where, if you're signing a petition for a candidate for Superior Court, check and make sure that it's the York County petition. If it says Lancaster or Dauphin or Adams, as a York County resident, you are not eligible to sign that specific petition. You're only allowed to sign the ones that are from York County. So what are the specific number of signatures that you need to get? We've got a lot of different variety here. But it's pretty simple. If you can keep this in mind, that countywide, if you're running for county coroner, county district attorney, recorder of deeds, whatever countywide position it might be, it's 250 signatures are needed. A minimum of 250 are needed. If you're running for York City Mayor, York City Council, any city position, it is 100 signatures for those particular offices. If you are running for district magistrate, you need to get 100 per party, and that's because the magisterial justices are a position that can cross-file, and as I mentioned, we'll talk about cross-filing here in just a second. But if you're running for one of those positions, you need to get 100 signatures on the Democratic petition and 100 on the Republican, a minimum. The borough council and township offices, same thing, 10 per minimum for those particular areas. For school boards, again, you can cross-file in a school board election, and you need to have at least 10 for each party that you're filing for. I will mention this, and this is important. It used to be that if you were running for York City School Board, you needed to get 100, just like all citywide positions. This year, you only need to get 10, like the rest of the school districts in York County. So if you're running for York City School Board, you only need to get 10 signatures minimum on your petition. If you're running for constable or for a judge of elections, you need 10. If you're running for one of the election inspectors, either the majority or minority inspectors, you only need 5 signatures minimum. Our rule of thumb is try to get as many as you can possibly get. We really recommend that you try to get at least double, if not triple, the number that you need. If you're running for a countywide office, it really doesn't hurt to try to get 1,000 signatures. If you're running for a city office, I'd say 250 or more. If you're running for any of these other positions like school board or township or borough council, 25, 30 is not out of the question to get either. We recommend that you get more than what you need, simply because if for some reason one of your signatures doesn't count, it can be scratched out by the Board of Elections, or someone can challenge that. If they throw that out and that drops you beyond the threshold that you need, you will not be eligible to get on the ballot. A few years ago, we had someone that was running for Congress. They needed 1,000 signatures. They submitted 1,006 signatures to get on the ballot. I think they started looking through the signatures, and they recognized that maybe a dozen or so didn't count right off the bat, just because of how they were signed, or they were not legible or something. And it dropped that candidate below the 1,000 mark, and that candidate was not eligible to get on the primary ballot then. So you want to try to get as many as you can possibly get. It's good voter outreach to try to get more than what you need, but it's also a kind of ballot survival technique to get as many as you can possibly get as well. Yeah, and actually someone just mentioned that as well. Yeah, it's advertising to let people know that you're running and you want their vote. That's absolutely really one of the best residuals of trying to get more signatures than what you need. So cross-filing, I've mentioned cross-filing a couple times. There's always a ton of questions about who can cross-file. Specifically from the Board of Elections. The Board of Elections did a training a couple weeks ago, and they indicated that there are only 2 offices that will be on the ballot in 2021 that are allowed to cross-file, and that is the magisterial district judge and the school board directors. Those are the only 2 positions, according to the Board of Elections, that can cross-file. When you cross-file, what that means is that you can submit both a Republican and a Democratic petition to get on the ballot under both parties. So if you run for Central York School District, you can run as a Republican and a Democrat on the primary ballot. and you can win on both ballots as well. That would be a fantastic thing if we could get a Democrat to win on both ballots, because that would mean that they technically are taking up 2 spots when it comes to the general election overall. So we definitely encourage, if it is a race where you can cross file, we highly encourage that you circulate petitions with both parties. I will specifically say, if you have a Democratic petition that you are circulating, it has to be a Democrat that is circulating it. If you have a Republican petition that you are cross-filing with, you need to have the Republican circulating that petition for you as well. My understanding is that the magisterial district judge is the only one that's not the case. So to complicate this even more, if you're running for district magistrate, you can have a Democrat circulating your Republican petition. You can have a Republican circulating a Democratic petition in only that race. School board races, it has to be your party has to be circulating that party's petition. The magisterial positions, you can have a little bit more flexibility because it is a judicial position. And then the last thing is that you must obtain the minimum number of signatures on both sets of petitions. So again, for a school board race where you need to have 10 signatures, you need to have at least 10 signatures on the Democratic petition. You need to have at least 10 signatures on the Republican as well. So again, those are the minimums. We would advise that you get more than that. So just some general tips for candidates. You can go to the County Board of Elections this year, as I mentioned, and print out your petition. If you do this, keep in mind, it needs to be printed double-sided. You cannot print page 1 on one sheet and page 2 on another sheet. It should be page 1 on the front, page 2 on the back. They will not accept, a separated petition like that. So please be careful if you're printing it out that you have a double-sided sheet. The other thing that they talk about is that if you're printing out double-sided, they say make sure it's top to top. So make sure the top of the front page is lined up with the top of the back page as well. Don't put them upside down. There's a little bit more flexibility with the Board of Elections accepting that. However, let's try not to do that. Let's try to avoid that complication as well. So I did want to mention, I see that there's a number of questions in the chat, and we're coming up on a question stop here in just a minute. So I'm gonna address some of those questions at that point in time. So to finish out the tips here, as we said, if you have any doubt about the validity of a signature, draw a solid black line through the entire line on the petition, starting that first column and draw it the whole way through the 6th one. And have the person then, the signer, re-sign on the next line below it, if you're able to. Candidates must submit a completed and notarized candidate affidavit before the March 9th petition deadline. If you are cross-filing, so if you're in one of those cross-filing races that we talked about, you will need to submit an affidavit for each party that you're filing for. So if you're cross-filing for both Republican and Democrat, you will have to submit 2 candidate affidavits, one to cover the Republican, one to cover the Democratic side. And those are available for download at the York County Board of Elections website. I have the link here. We'll make sure that anyone that's on tonight gets that link as a follow-up as well. And that candidate affidavit does need to be notarized. That is the one piece that needs to be notarized of all the petitioning materials in 2021. So if you have a candidate affidavit, you only need to complete 1 per party. So even if you have 75 pages of signatures, you only need 1 candidate affidavit to cover all of those. but it does need to be notarized. So make sure if you print that candidate affidavit, if you go online and print that out, that you do not sign it until you are in front of a notary, and they will have you sign it then and notarize it. There is also a statement of financial interest that needs to be completed as well. And again, that is available on the county website. There's a link that will actually take you to a link on the state party page. I'm sorry, the State Department of State page that will allow you to download the statement of financial interest. So when you file your petitions, there are 3 things that you need to have in your hand. You need to have your signed petitions with the circulator affidavits completed on the back of them. You need to have a candidate affidavit, which has been signed by you and notarized, signed in front of the notary and notarized. And you need to have the statement of financial interest. If you are missing any of those 3 pieces, the Board of Elections will not accept it as a completed petition. And if you don't turn these things in before the deadline of March 9th, that you will not be eligible to be on the ballot. So those are the 3 things that they are looking for. Just a couple other quick facts here, quick tips. The Democratic Party of York County is able to file your petitions for you. We will do that, but we need to have everything so that we can do that. We need to have your completed petitions. We need to have your candidate affidavit, which has been signed and notarized. We need to have your statement of financial interest that's been completed. And we need either cash, money order, or a certified check payable to the County of York for the filing fee. And we'll talk about filing fees here in just a second. The Board of Elections does not take personal checks. They do require either cash, money order, or a certified check. If you want the party, the county party, to send in, or I shouldn't say send in, take your petitions to be filed at the Board of Elections, we are requesting that we have those no later than 9 p.m. on Thursday, March 4th. So that's, a little less than a week prior to the deadline. And that is so that we have enough time to take all of the petitions that we may get and file them at the County Board of Elections office. If you are planning to file your petitions on your own, great. I know a lot of first-time candidates like to do it really simply for the experience, and that's fine. And you're absolutely able to do that. You need to take all your materials to the Board of Elections office, but we are advising, and the Board of Elections office is advising, that you do not wait until Tuesday, March 9th to file your petitions. The reason for that is very simple. The Board of Elections, their COVID protocol is that only 2 non-employees can be in the office at the same time. So if you wait until March 9th and all 300 plus positions that are on the ballot, so maybe literally 600 candidates or more, if they all decided to file on the same day, we probably wouldn't get everything filed before the primary because there would be such a backlog. So in consideration of the Board of Elections, they are advising, and as I said, the county party as well is advising, that you try to get your petitions in when you have a number that you feel is a comfortable number to submit. Be aware, if you are going to go in on Tuesday, March 9th, there probably will be a significant backlog. I'm not sure if they will try to do any kind of protocols to help move things along faster, but I do know that they are advising not to wait until that last day, that last deadline. I mentioned the filing fees. Those are all listed here. For countywide offices on down, the cost is listed. If you're in one of those, if you're in the magisterial district race, district justice race, you do need to pay a filing fee for both that you cross file for. Good news is, if you're running for borough or township, if you're running for school board, judge of elections, and election inspector, there is no filing fee. So it is free to turn in your petitions. So you don't need to pay anything to get your petitions filed. If you're running for constable, there is a $10 filing fee there as well. So we're back up to another question stop here, and I want to go back because I know there's a number of questions here. So let me see. There is a question about the Court of Common Pleas judges and whether or not they are able to cross-file. First and foremost, I will say I don't know whether or not there are common pleas positions open this year, and there may be, and we're just not aware of them yet. And if that is the case, we do want to make sure that we have candidates on the ballot for those. The question was, can you get signatures for both parties? Can you cross-file for those? I will be quite honest. What the Board of Elections told us was that you could only cross-file for the magisterial races as well as for the school board races. Before I would begin to cross-file for a Court of Common Pleas judge, I would definitely check with the Board of Elections, and we can verify that as well. We can follow up with more information after tonight to those that are online and those that registered for this to answer that question for you. But as I said, the Board of Elections in their presentation did not mention that as being a cross-filed type of position, but we will get clarity on that for those that are asking that question. So do the school board candidates submit their statement of financial interest to their school board office or to the Board of Elections? And that's a good question. Actually, I do believe now that you say that the school boards do submit them to the districts. Again, I will get clarification on that, but I think you're accurate in that, that you turn everything else in at the Board of Elections, and then you turn your statement, your financial interest statement into the school boards, the school district offices themselves. Worst case scenario, take everything to the Board of Elections. The Board of Elections may tell you, okay, you need to take this statement of financial interest to your school district office. If you're filing early enough, that should not be a problem. But again, we'll double check that and verify that for everyone. Do they have to be delivered, the petitions, do they have to be delivered in person, or can you drop them in the mail? I believe protocol is you have to drop them off in person. And that is because while you're there, they will double check everything, make sure you have everything, and make sure that it's there. That's also why if you cannot get into, maybe you work during the day, you have a 9-to-5 job or longer even, or you work out of the area and just can't get to the Board of Elections office, let us know at the party. As the party, we can take your petitions and file them for you. And we've done that in the past where literally we've had dozens of candidates that we filed for all at one time. So if for any reason you don't think you can get into the Board of Elections, let us know. We'll help take care of that for you. All right, are there any other questions right now? So I'll check back here with Sam. Sam, you still with us? Did I put you to sleep yet?
No, I am still here. And you might have mentioned this, but I might have missed it. But just in case, if candidates don't feel comfortable printing out their own petitions, where can they go and pick those up?
Yeah, that's a good question. And actually, that's going to lead us right into our next section of how the county party can help with candidates. I will say specifically, you can go to the Board of Elections and get a printed petition if you don't feel comfortable printing it yourself, or you can come to the county party headquarters and we will be able to print that out for you as well. So that's a good question. And like I said, we're going to talk here in just a second about some of the resources that we can help provide, and that is one of the things that are on there. I do see a question here that says, what can you say about someone who is not sure to run as a Democrat and may want to run as an independent? Great question. Great question. The biggest thing that I would say about running as an independent. Everyone is obviously able to register, specifically how they want to register, and we're not telling anyone to lean one way or another, or to register one way or another. But what I will say is that independents do not vote in a primary election unless there are amendments or a special election like there's going to be in a part of the county this year. They are not eligible to vote. Pennsylvania has a closed primary system that says you have to either be registered as a Republican or a Democrat to vote on those ballots on primary day in May. So as a result, independents are not on the ballot either that day. So independents will have to go through the petitioning process, but they do it after the primary election. There is a period of time where the window will open back up for independents to circulate nominating petitions to get on the November ballot. To me, I would say the biggest downside to that is that you lose a lot of time in getting your name out there. Obviously, if your name is on the primary ballot and you win and you move on to November, people voted for you. They already know your name. They may already know your issues. And not to say that an independent isn't able to get their name out there, but at the same time, it does create a little bit more of a hurdle in that regard. So my personal perspective on that is that I realize there are some independents that don't want to be affiliated with either party, and that's fine. But because of the way that Pennsylvania has set up their primary system, I feel that it does benefit someone to be affiliated with a party just for that reason alone, just to get on the ballot. Again, that's a personal decision by a candidate, how they want to file. But I think it does provide them some extra exposure if they do it, if they're registered and filing a petition under a specific party for the primary. So good questions. So let's now switch gears a little bit. We've talked a lot about how what all's involved with the petitions and what you need, how many signatures, how much money you have to spend if there's a filing fee, that type of thing. Let's move on now and talk about how do you get signatures safely in the age of COVID. We know that specifically the Democratic Party of York County, as well as the Pennsylvania Democratic Party, in an effort to mitigate the spread or the further spread of COVID-19, we are definitely still recommending that candidates do not go door to door or hold larger signing parties for petitioning as we have done in years past. And that is definitely a negative for us, because every time that we are able to go door to door, or every time that we're able to have a function where we have 15 or 20 people in a room that can sign a petition, obviously if you get 15 or 20 signatures for a school board race, you've hit your number, you've hit over your number, and you're in good shape with one event. In an evening, you can knock on 25 doors and get 25 signatures, usually, in a normal year. But this year, it's a little bit tougher. So what we are doing, there's a couple things that we're offering as suggestions. And the first is the Democratic Party will be holding drive-through petition signing events all throughout the county in an effort to help you get your petition signed. So what we are going to do, what we're asking you as a candidate is, if you do print out your petition on your own and you fill it out, make sure that we have a copy of that at our headquarters so that we can incorporate that into these regional petition signings that we are doing. Essentially, what these drive-through petition signings will be is that we will advertise them to voters in our area, to Democrats in these areas. And the voters will then come up. They will just drive up to a person with a clipboard. They will sign it. If there's other people in the car, they can sign it, and then they drive away. We will follow protocol. We will have masks. We will be gloved up. We will have hand sanitizer. We will do everything in our power to make sure that it's a safe way to collect signatures. We will be doing this at various regions throughout the county. It's not going to just be in York City. There are several, I believe 3 events scheduled for the northern part of the county. We will do some in the Hanover area. We are looking at the southern part. We're looking of York County. We're looking at like the Hellam, Wrightsville area. We are looking to try to do this as widespread as we possibly can. Just a couple hours. We will get the word out through the party that we're doing these events and have people come out and sign your petitions. That's the big part of what the party is going to be focused on. As an individual, you know, it never hurts. Contact your family, your friends, your neighbors, anybody that you know that's a registered Democrat that's willing to sign your signature. You can always stop by a house. You know, we always advise try not to enter the house if possible. Wear your masks, follow the guidelines. But you know, you might know a family that has 3 or 4 registered Democrats in that house. If you give them a call and say, hey, are you guys all going to be home Saturday morning? I want to stop by for 5 minutes, get some signatures so you can help me get on the school board. Right there's 4 signatures right away. So you know, definitely take advantage of that as well. Go to public venues like like a library or Central Market or Penn Market in the city, and stand outside asking for signatures. We do this on a normal year outside of libraries and the markets as well. But if you're outside, especially you know, Central Market on a Saturday morning when it's really busy, you know, you can stand outside. Now, again, if you're running for a regional position, like, you know, say, you know, York Township, you're running for their supervisor position, you may not see that many people from York Township at the market. You know, if you're running in Shrewsbury for the Borough Council, you may not see as many folks from Shrewsbury at market. So try to be strategic in when you're picking those public venues. If you are looking to do it outside of a you know, say a grocery store or something like that, we do advise that you try to get permission ahead of time. Sometimes, you know, businesses frown on that. If it's a Dem-friendly business, if it's somebody that you know, maybe they own a bake shop or a restaurant or something like that, you know, they may be more than happy to have you come outside and do that. But again, as they're signing, especially if you're picking a public venue like this, you want to make sure that they live in your district and that they are signing the correct party. So those kind of things can be a little bit more hit or miss because you're not necessarily targeting who you're trying to get signatures from. It's a little bit more scattershot than that. But they can be effective ways, especially in this time period. So what can the party do for you? In addition to those drive-up events that I talked about, the first thing is, and I just actually learned this today, apparently the Board of Elections has started to charge people for the street lists if they want street lists from the Board of Elections. You know what? Don't even bother. You know, come to the party, reach out to us at the party, and we can get you call lists, we can get you walk lists, we can get you street lists. We can email them to you as a PDF so that you have them. We can actually also, there's an app called Minivan that we can build you some access to, so that, you know, you can have them all right on your phone as well, and you can check on that list there. It's fairly simple for us to run those kind of lists, and we aren't going to charge you for them. You know, especially if we're sending you a digital file, we won't charge you for that digital file. And that way we can also target specific voters. You don't have to just have a random sheet and hope that, you know, you're hitting a Democrat at that house. We can target those a little bit more so that we know that you can get kind of the most bang for your dollar, or in this case, no dollar, for those that you're reaching out to. And this actually goes right back to what Sam was just talking about earlier. If you need copies of your petitions, call our office in York and we'll be happy to get you those. We can print out the original for you so that you can fill it out. Come into our office. Our office in York is open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 to 4. And we do have some evening hours as well, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Typically, there's someone there from 6 to 9. If you follow the protocol, wear your mask, come in, we'll be happy to print those out for you. You can fill them out there and we can make you copies. And not only can we make you copies, but we're willing to give you up to 25 copies of your petition at no cost. So you don't even have to worry about doing that. So, we will make those for you. If it's above 25, we will ask for a small contribution for those, but otherwise, in most of these races, you're not going to need 25 copies of the petition, but we're willing to do that for you. And then the last thing, like I said, get us your petitions. Make sure that we have a copy so that we can continue to make copies ourselves at our headquarters for folks that want to circulate, and so that we can get them out at these drive-through events that we're going to be offering throughout the county as well. As a candidate, you're more than welcome to come out to those drive-through events, but remember, anyone from York County can circulate your petition. So as long as we have, 2 or 3 volunteers or how many ever we designate for these events, and we feel like we've got enough coverage for that, it would be great as a candidate if you can make it, because obviously it gives you a chance to introduce yourself to a potential voter. But at the same time, again, it might be a little bit more stretched out regionally as to whether or not that's an area that that's a voter that'll vote for you or that can sign. So we want to make sure that your time is spent wisely. So again, that's kind of up to you. Definitely would be great to have you there. If not, we can definitely cover that for you as well. And then this is the contact information for the party. And I'm going to leave this up because I think that, the next slide is just the question slide. So I'm going to leave this up here so that you can follow up with questions after tonight as well. I saw that someone in the chat mentioned we are moving our headquarters. So if you are reaching out to us, up until February 28th, you can reach us. If you're coming in person, you can come into our office at 135 South Duke Street. On March 1st, we will be in our new headquarters at 216 East Market Street. It's basically kind of diagonal across East Market Street from the Martin Library in that area. So you can come in and get materials or drop off materials. Our phone number will not be changing. That's the same. So you can always call us and ask questions. Our Hanover office is at 130 Carlisle Street in Hanover, and the phone number is listed there. Again, if you're running in the Hanover area, if you're running in Hanover Borough, Penn Township, West Manheim Township, all of those areas, Spring Grove, those areas, please bring in copies of your petitions to our Hanover office, and so that we can have those available for volunteers as well. And then last, our website's listed there. We're all over social media. And this email address, vote@yorkdems.org, is a specialized email. So if you email us at that address with questions about petitioning, that is solely focused on getting you those responses. So you can use that email address specifically to get your questions answered. So I think that is all I have. That is a lot of information. And one of the things that we will do is we will, after tonight, anyone that registered for this, we will make sure that you have a copy of this presentation. As I mentioned, we will also make sure that you have a link to the recording as well. To follow up and watch this again, or watch parts of it if you have specific questions in this process. So Sam, I feel like I've been talking all night and not giving you an opportunity to jump in here.
No, you're fine.
Is there anything that I missed or anything that you can think of? Sam has done a lot of organizing in the past for various campaigns and candidates, and I'm not sure, do you have any insight that you want to share, any special tricks up your sleeve that can help folks get signatures?
Honestly, the biggest thing that I wanted to add, and I know you touched on this, but getting walk lists or lists of Dems in your area from us, I love doing this stuff. I love pulling those kind of lists, targeting, voters that we are sure will sign your petitions. And we can narrow it down really. We can make it a very narrow criteria. And I know Chad said this, but we can pull a list, of Dems who typically vote in these municipal elections. Those are people that we know will sign your petitions. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you would like that done. And I can get it to you all digitally. But that's the kind of work that I absolutely love and I find really fun. So please don't hesitate to reach out and ask about that. And I think that that's going to be the best way to get your signatures really quickly and really easily as well. And I think that that's all I have, Chad.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add, I think that's a great point because, like I said, the walk list that you get from the county, there's a lot of information there. There's a lot of paper there, and it's just kind of everyone. They obviously can't target for you. And as Sam said, not only does she like to do it, but she's good at developing these lists and targeting for our candidates. So we really recommend that if you need those kind of lists to reach out to us. One other thing I will mention that actually did not include anywhere in this presentation, but we are going to be using it a little bit when it comes to petitioning to try to get people out to sign petitions. The Democratic Party of York County does have a texting system where we can reach out to Democratic voters in the region. So we are planning on utilizing that, like I said, specifically when we have some of these events scheduled regionally to text out to strong Democratic voters in that region to try to get them to come out and sign for our candidates. So that will be a system that we will be able to utilize even in more depth once petitioning is over and we're trying to get people out to vote for the primary and the general elections. But specifically for this, we will be utilizing a number of our resources to help drive folks out to these drive-through events, or if as a candidate, you're planning on doing something yourself, maybe you just want to advertise, hey, I'm going to stand out at the end of my driveway, and anybody that wants to come by can sign the petition. Let us know. We can post that up on our social media. We can put that out in our email blasts. We'd be happy to send that as a text out to some Democrats in your area as well. So there are a number of ways that we can reach out to voters. I think of all years when COVID is making it tougher for, when COVID's making it tougher specifically to get signatures, it's not so bad this year because we don't need tens of thousands of signatures to get candidates on the ballot, but we do want to make sure that we get you as many signatures as we possibly can. So there's a question here, and Sam, I might toss this one to you, see what you think. The question is, do you know of any places that would be truly off limits for collecting petition signatures?
I'm going to add to what you said, Chad, about getting permission. Sometimes I know when we did petitioning for Eugene's campaign, for example, some bigger businesses were off limits because we didn't have a personal relationship to them, and they weren't so much interested in stuff at like the national level, but some local businesses might be interested just because it's a local race, like school board, something like that. The one place I know a lot of times is if you're going to be inside. So Penn Market and Central Market, for example, they do have some limitations as far as being inside of their building. But you can, you're more than welcome to be outside. I've seen a lot of petitioners outside in the past. So just those little notes, but just piggybacking off of you, Chad, with making sure that you have permission and you're checking their policies, because every place is going to have a little bit different of policies, especially when it comes to being inside, which is really tough when petitioning season is during February.
Yeah. It's crazy. It always falls when it's the coldest time of the year. So you're right. I will add to that actually as well. I do know, one place that is 100% off limits is inside a church. You obviously, if you're a member of a church and you want to, get petition signatures from some of the fellow parishioners or what have you in the church, you have to do that outside. Churches are considered nonprofits. They can lose their nonprofit status if they do anything political. So there again, I would go back to if you would like to do that, if you know that there are people that go to a church that you go to that would be willing to sign your petition, just try to get permission ahead of time and make sure that you're doing that outside of the church. Even if you have to step like 2 steps off of their property, that would probably be well advised. And the same thing with schools, actually. I know a couple people have talked about there are some districts that are just, some school districts where the educators themselves want to sign petitions. Don't do that on school property. Again, there should be space available off school property where you can do that. You can reach out to those educators and say, hey, I'm going to be here, at the end of the day on Tuesday, across the street in the parking lot, stop over and you can sign there. But yeah, I think, I'm glad you agreed with that too, Sam. I think anything that's a public place, you just want to make sure you have permission ahead of time and make sure there's no specific guidelines that they may have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So cool. I don't see any other questions. I think we can wrap up here. Like I said, earlier, if you have other questions, if you think of anything else, feel free to reach out to us after tonight. We'll be more than happy to try to answer those questions for you. As Sam mentioned, if you need walk lists, please, by all means, reach out to us and we can get those set up and sent to you as soon as possible. Yeah, and I think that's it. Look for a follow-up email. You'll probably get a follow-up email from the page that you registered on, but we will also send one that includes, like I said, a copy of the presentation and the link to the video from tonight as well. So, Sam, was there anything else that you wanted to add?
I just wanted to add, like filing your petitions, if you would like walk lists or anything like that, please do it sooner rather than later. That way it gives you time to look at the list that we provide and say, hey, I know this guy, him and I don't get along very well, so I'm not going to have him sign my petition. It gives you time to prepare, and it also gives us time to get those to you, since there's quite a lot of offices open. So that's potentially a lot of lists that we'll be making. So just sooner rather than later works really well for that.
Okay. So I'm glad that one of our headquarters volunteers is on the presentation tonight. She just texted me to say that our printer is going to be, our copier and printer is going to be moved to our new headquarters on February 18th. And it is going to probably be out of commission until March 1st. So if you need to get copies of those petitions, because they're available for download, try to get them to us this week if possible. If not, it's going to end up being a little bit later. We can find places to get them printed for you as well. We just might not be able to offer the bulk of the copies that we were talking about earlier, but yeah, just keep that in mind. Obviously, we're moving it after the start of petitioning, so try to be proactive and get that as much as possible to us this week or early next week as well. So, all right. Well, Sam, thank you for your input. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate you listening, everyone listening to me kind of prattle on here this evening. And again, we're here to help. We want to get as many Democrats on the ballot as possible. So we look forward to helping you get your petitions filed. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Stay safe, everyone.